Assalamu alaikum, peace be on you. Now today what I'm going to be talking about is, shouldn't atheists be agnostic? Now the reason why I say this is because a lot of atheists clutch onto science as though it is 100% truth. It is 100% fact, and that's it, end of conversation. The unfortunate thing with this is that, unfortunately for them, science is revisable. The scientific method means that a future observation can change the entire view of something that we're viewing as of now. For example, the scientific method is basically based on induction. So you have a limited set of data, you observe your experiment, and you make a conclusion, and that's it. But the problem with this is that the next observable evidence that you could view could be different. And as time develops as well, as time goes on and science develops, technology develops, you could get a different conclusion, which, clearly happens quite often. I'll give you an example. The steady state theory, 1940s. At that particular time, the universe was, to the world we know as of now, would have been regarded as eternal. There was no beginning, no end. Bertrand Russell, at that particular time, on a radio show said that, that's it. It's no beginning, no end, end of conversation. There's nothing else to talk about. Now, if you're a Muslim during that time, you'd have gone, wait a minute. It doesn't match science. The Quran doesn't match science. What am I going to do? Well, if they had that mindset, then today, as of now, they would have basically called themselves a fool, because as of now, we are on the Big Bang Theory model. And in the Big Bang Theory model, it shows that we have a start. The universe had a start. And it matches the Quran. So, on this particular thing, science changed. So what I would advise a lot of atheists is to stop saying that, your yardstick that you have is 100% certain and true and will not change. Because it could definitely change. Whereas the Quran, as a yardstick, doesn't change. Hasn't changed. MashaAllah. Now, you may say that, wait a minute, you know what, we can use a burden of proof argument to say that there isn't a God, or to say that evolution is, fact. We could use a burden of proof argument. Well, you know what, you could use the same argument to say for the Quran. Because when we look at it, about 80% of the Quran can be viewed by science and matches established fact. The remaining 20%, which is ambiguous, we can't determine whether it's a fact or not, as science hasn't developed. For example, it talks about the heavens and the earth which were created. We could say that it's referring to the Big Bang, but we can't 110% say that it's referring to the Big Bang. Another example is Adam alayhi salam being the first person of the earth, on the earth. Evolution, as of yet, says that it was not the case. So, this is ambiguous stuff and it's not factual stuff. But if you look at the 80% which is factual stuff, it matches all the factual stuff. All the scientific facts, it matches it 100%. So, if you're looking at that, in that case, if 100% of the 80% matches scientific fact, then the burden of proof goes on that the future observations of the Quran to be correct. Now, I'm not clutching onto science. I'm just making a point to a lot of people who use science as a yardstick. Now, a lot of atheists after this will just say, you know what, there's no observable evidence to say that there is a God. We can't see a God. There's no God. unfortunately, that isn't the case, because you could actually argue that, wait a minute, there's no observable evidence that there isn't a God. There are reasons to believe, if it's cause and effect argument, you can have a look at that. For example, as well, cosmological constant, the chance of his world coming into existence is absolutely minute. And it's perfectly fine-tuned into a way that we are habitable species on a planet that really should never really have come to in fruition. As well as that, now if we look at the Quran itself, you could look at the historical accuracies of the Quran. For example, during Moses' time, the person in charge, I think the emperor it was called Pharaoh. And during Joseph's time, peace be upon them both, was called king. So no other scripture mentions this or makes this distinction. Now you'd be thinking, what's the big deal of king and Pharaoh during that time? The thing with this is that the Rosetta Stone has just been found recently, and before the Rosetta Stone was found, no one knew that during them periods that in Joseph's time, the emperor at that time was called king, and during Moses' time was called Pharaoh. And the Quran makes this distinction. And so how did during Prophet Muhammad's time, how did they know this? How? When all the information, the Rosetta Stone, etc. was all gone. Everything was gone. A lot of the stories at that particular time were basically calling Pharaoh, and during Joseph's time, king. They were not calling him king. They were calling him Pharaoh. So the Quran makes this distinction. How can this be historically absolutely correct? You've got to look at this. I've got to. Now, some more data for you. Like, for example, it talks about embryology in Quran chapter 23, verse 12 to 14. And, there are reasons to believe that why there is a creator. Now, to say that there is no God and end of conversation and everything else is wrong, really. To say, like, for example, evolution is correct, that's it. We are what we are from evolution, that's it. No, we can't look at that. If you want to establish whether there is a God or not, you need to look at the Big Bang, not evolution. The Big Bang started first. Now, in the Big Bang, antimatter collided with matter. Then the Big Bang happened, and here we are today. So, who started this first cause? Who fashioned the matter energy into intellectual beings to live on a habitable planet? Not only that, the laws of the universe were already there. Who created this? Who allowed the antimatter to react with the matter to do this? Who put the laws together? You know what we Muslims say? We say Allah. That's it. Rest is up to you guys. That's all I'm saying. I'm just saying, be open-minded, have an open mind and heart, and that's it. Okay, that's it from me. Peace out, everybody. Have a great day. Assalamu alaikum. Peace.